Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Akir, COO of KELA. I'll say a few words about our company. The company is a private company. We were founded in 2009. The thinking behind, or the vision of the company is to take the experience and the methodologies of people coming from the defense forces, specifically from intelligence, and to use that in order to provide very targeted, very high quality intelligence to enterprises.
Could you move on the other side?
To the other side?
Yes.
No problem.
Maybe that's. Would you like to use this point?
Better? Okay. Okay. So today we provide intelligence platforms and intelligence services to some of the largest enterprises in the world. We're working with two of the largest car manufacturers in the world, a few of the largest banks in North America, one of the largest telecoms, and so on. I will start today with an overview of the technology and the way that we search for the intelligence and the way we gather it. And then I'll talk a little bit about the services. So basically our technology, what it does, it is a cloud-based technology which continuously scans specific places in the open web and in the darknet, the Tor network, in order to find intelligence about threats that are specifically targeting your organization. And this is a key point. It means that we are not delivering a feed. We are not showing you stuff like new botnet IP addresses or things like this. It is going to remain completely quiet until somebody out there is targeting your company. And I will show some examples to clarify it. Now, to those of you who don't know what the darknet is, I will not go into the technicals, but basically it is a place where any attacker can post information, can share information without ever being detected in the physical world. So it's a great source of intelligence for us. There's a lot of hacker talk there. Now, usually this is the picture everybody shows about the darknet, but we tend to think of it more like this. It is like searching for a needle in a haystack. There are a lot of needles out there. There is a lot of very high quality intelligence out there. But there is much more noise. The noise can be irrelevant chatter by 12-year-old kids. It can be law enforcement honey traps. It can be scammers. It can be a lot of things. So the approach we take is actually not to automate everything in the darknet. What we do is we have the automatic platform to do the continuous monitoring. But we tell the platform where we want it to go. We have a dedicated team of researchers, all of them ex-intelligence guys. And what they do is they go to the darknet, they evaluate each of the hacker discussions, each of the marketplaces, and they decide which ones we want to collect intelligence from. And only then, once they've decided on a site, we will build the automation mechanism, and that site is then monitored by our platform. So I will go a little bit today, like I said, into the platform itself and into the analysis services we provide. So starting from the platform, this is what it looks like. Just very briefly, I will go over it. Basically, we will configure, when a new client joins, we will configure this kind of dashboard specifically for that client. So it will show us all of the information, all of the intelligence coming up on this client. And the client, of course, has access to this. It will show a timeline view. Very importantly, we will configure the assets. So we will tell the platform who are the executives of the company, who are the administrators of the company, who are the vendors of the company, IP addresses, domain names, anything that we want the platform to search in the darknet and alert us if something's threatening them. Other parts are vulnerability intelligence, and I will show some examples about this. Sector benchmark, which is important for our clients to know how they are, from an intelligence perspective, compared to other companies in their industry. And finally, the part of the artificial intelligence, which gives a final assessment of the entire situation. So let me show you a few examples of the types of information that can come up on the system. So I will start with examples from the cybercrime arena, and then I will move on to classic IT/OT security. So probably the first one, which is the most frequent information you will see in the darknet, is going to be credit cards. We see hundreds of thousands of credit cards. This is, for example, a list of BIN numbers. So it can be BIN numbers belonging to the banks, credit card details belonging to the banks, or the actual magnetic strip dumps that are being sold on a specific bank. We see a lot of discussions. So in this case, this is a technical discussion, kind of a step-by-step guide in a hacker forum on how to get into people's PayPal accounts. And we see these discussions in different places on different topics. So this is on PayPal, we see it in connected cars. Like I said, we're working with the car manufacturers, so a lot of discussions on how can we hack into connected cars. This one, for example, is a discussion that we saw regarding an internet service provider, an ISP. And that ISP is providing a specific kind of home router. And there is a whole discussion on how to break this router, how to get root access, and how to get free services from the router. A lot of times we will see specifically for banks, specific attack tools being sold that are targeting specifically this bank or this bank's application. In this case, these are scam pages. So pages, web pages, usually 4 to 7 PHP pages that are identical to the bank's homepage. You can buy them. The price is around $30. You put them up, and anybody who goes in there, you immediately get their username and password. Maybe one last example for the cybercrime. So this is a real example that we sent, an actual case that we sent to one of our clients in the US, one of the major banks. And this is basically an attacker who managed to get usernames and passwords to 7 bank accounts. So 7 clients of that bank, and he's selling the usernames and passwords in the darknet, going for around $230. So these are examples coming more from the cybercrime and fraud. If I go a little bit more into the IT security. So we're seeing a lot of database breaches. It can be databases belonging to the company, or usually databases belonging to third parties that are working with the company. And I'll explain a bit more about this. But you can see this. It was a very long post. You can see table after table. You will see users tables, product tables, pricing tables, everything that's in the database. Actually, in this case, you could also see the SQL injection method that was used with the exact SQL string that was used to form the attack. This is a marketplace. This is also a real example from a telecom client. And what the system detected are IP addresses belonging to that client that are being sold in the darknet. The access to these machines is being sold in the darknet. So this is an automatic darknet market. And somebody there put 2 of our clients' machines with the usernames, passwords to access a remote desktop on those servers. One of the things that we monitor closely, especially since we're working with very large enterprises, is not only the enterprise itself, but anybody connected to that enterprise, mainly the supply chain. And the reason is that today it's almost the standard MO for attackers. Instead of going for a major enterprise, they will map the supply chain, they will attack the weaker vendors in the supply chain, and they will use that to break into the main company. And what this is we were monitoring for a major airline, and the system came up with 8 usernames and passwords of employees of that airline. And the interesting thing is that the airline was not actually breached. A much smaller ground services company that's operating in another part of the world was breached. This company is giving services to all these airlines, and in their database they had 8 employees. So now, even though the airline has no idea what happened, 8 of their employees are now out there in the darknet. I think maybe one last example, and this is a different type of intelligence. Like I said, the platform shows the main intelligence feed, but it also shows vulnerability intelligence. The vulnerability intelligence, I will just say a few words about what is this concept. So basically, the system automatically still crawls the darknet. It still crawls searching for very specific information about our client. But instead of crawling marketplaces and discussion forums, it is crawling log files. Basically, it is crawling log files of previous attacks. Since anybody today can download an Nmap or a port scanner and scan your infrastructure, a lot of people do it. For a major enterprise, they will be scanned thousands of times a day. What happens with this is that even though these scans are meaningless to the enterprise, the log files are being stored in the darknet. And just by collecting thousands of log files and stitching them together, we are able to map the entire, a very comprehensive external picture of what the company's IT infrastructure looks like, just by collecting intelligence without actively scanning. And you can see, in this example, it's finding 2 open ports, an SMB, which was relevant for the WannaCry attack, and an RDP. And to understand what an open RDP port, I assume a lot of you know what an open RDP port means, but to fully explain what an open RDP port means, it means that somebody using a brute force tool can now, within a very short time, get access to a machine on your network. And that machine can be anything from a simple laptop to something like this that we found on the darknet, access to an actual ICS. So this is the automatic part, automatically scanning, searching for intelligence about your company. The second part is really the intelligence services that we provide around this. Basically what we do is, to each of our clients, we assign a dedicated intelligence analyst. And the way that it works is that our analysts will basically become a part of the client's team. And they will function either proactively. So for example, if the platform detects some intelligence coming in on a specific client, the analyst will then go into that intelligence and start looking into it. Who is the threat actor? What do we know about him? What kind of information does he know or is he selling about our clients? A few examples. This is an example of a vulnerability that the system found in a client's network, an Open 5061 port. And because this is not a standard port, it's not an FTP and SSH, the analyst did a lot of research around this to work with the client's team and explain to them, what is this vulnerability? What are the risks? This is one of the things that he came up with, which is a Python script on how to attack 5061 ports. So this is one example. Another example can be requests by the clients. Like I said, we're acting as part of the client's team. And in this case, it was a major bank that asked us in a very short time what we can tell them about brute force attack tools. So the analyst dedicated to that bank researched it. He came up with a lot of specific attack tools from the darknet. And she put a lot of focus, first of all, on are there tools specifically designed for this bank? Second, and this was a question from the bank, what are the TTP that the threat actors are using with these tools? Because usually the tools are not going to be standalone. It's part of a process. So what is the process? And aside from this, what chatter is there? And this was, again, a question from a bank. Is it effective? Is it ineffective? What are the attackers looking for? The last part of the service is working together with the client's team for incident response. And a lot of times, we just had a client over last week, a major Canadian bank, and their statement was that in their incident response procedures, we are included in about 80% of the incidents. meaning that when they have a problem, a lot of times they will call us. A specific example for this was that a bank was feeling that they are specifically targeted by a threat actor. In this case, it was a threat actor called God, and they asked our team to conduct research on this threat actor. And what the team will do is really to see everything they can find about him. First of all, what offerings does he have? What else is he selling? Can we learn anything about his methodology? Because a lot of times they will post this. What do we know about his credibility? What are buyers saying about him? And in this case, you could actually see that the analysts came up with an entire discussions between the attacker and people buying from him or people requesting things from him. So this was part of the IR flow. So just to summarize, like I said, a threat intelligence platform, first of all, completely automated. So after we've configured it, you never need to touch it again. It's completely targeted. It will never give irrelevant stuff or stuff that's just general. It's always very actionable intelligence. The methodology of sources, meaning that we only collect very specific places. And finally, the combination of having the technology together with the intelligence research services. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have many questions actually, but one is about the information that you've shown us is not about the typical dark web. You need some undercover operation to get this information, or not? It's just my idea, or?
So the darknet is a lot of things. There are places that you don't need any special access for. There are things that you do need special access for. But it doesn't matter where. We will not rely on somebody like an avatar, somebody who's sitting there and trying to talk to people. We do not. We find the site, we evaluate it, and if it holds intelligence, we will build an automatic platform that continuously pulls the intelligence from there. From that moment, it looks completely passive.
So you are able to be invited in these groups in some sense. Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Sorry? No? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks again.